Well, today I'm going to be showing you something super exciting, which is how to find keywords for your articles. Now, I know a lot of people struggle with this, and I often see people in Facebook groups asking about how to do it. So I'm basically going to go over how I do it, which basically has two steps. There's finding your main keyword, and there's just finding keywords. You basically do them both at once, and it is fairly straightforward as long as you don't let yourself get too worried about it. I'm going to be using Longtail Pro in this demonstration. You can use Keyword Planner, you could try and use Google itself, but basically you're just not going to be able to do it as well or as accurately, and you're going to waste a lot of time. So for $97, if you're serious about keyword research, you've just got to have Longtail Pro, okay? Like, you don't need to pay anything else. There is a Longtail Pro Platinum program, which is really good, but it does involve a monthly fee. And mainly what's good about that is you get this keyword competitiveness, which is a bit of a shortcut. It just means when you're looking at the keywords, you'll get this ranking, which will cut down a lot of the work. So what I go through soon with trying to work out if they're competitive or not, and if you can rank, you'll be able to work out by this keyword competitiveness. You just will go for the one that has the lowest number and a number of local searches that you like. But I'm not going to be using that today, so this is just what you can do by spending $97 forever. You can use this and find keywords quite easily and accurately. So for my example, I'm going to use keywords that I'm going to use in an actual post about Melbourne. Now, as I said in my last video, if you watched that about improving keywords, I actually already do have a Melbourne article, but I wrote it a long time ago and I didn't use keywords very well, and now I would really like to rank for it since it is my home city. And I do tend to rank really well for Australian articles, so I feel like I should be able to rank well for this if I improve it. But what I'm going to do here is the same as what you would do for a new article. It's exactly the same as what I would do. There's no differences at all because I'm basically happy to rewrite that article to try and make it optimized for these keywords. Okay, so what we're going to do first is when you want to do a new one, you're going to start a new campaign. So basically you would come in here and go create new project. I have already created it. You can already see that data because my internet connection is particularly poor. But this is what I would do if I was going to do it again. Now, in Longtail Pro, you have to only look for keywords a country at a time. Now, this might seem silly and you just want to look everywhere, but the reality of the situation is that Google's search results are different in different countries. So there is sort of no way to see an overall rating, and even if there was, like, it just wouldn't be that useful, you know. So say if it got the average of everywhere in the world, and you were ranking number 5, or you thought you could rank number 5, how does that actually help you? Given that that is not actual search results anyone's seeing, and maybe you got the average of 5 because you rank quite well, but in places like Chad or somewhere that really don't matter and aren't your target audience. But you actually rank really poorly where your target audience is. But there's just no value in that. So you do need to set a country. So think about where you most want to rank, and that's what you're going to want to set. So because this is about Melbourne, most searches are going to be in Australia. So I care about Australia because that's where there's a bigger audience for me to take. Whereas when I was writing about Europe, a lot of my ones I put United Kingdom because there were more searches there. Okay, so all you need to do is make it look like that, put whatever country you want, go create project. Okay, then you've got find keywords. So these are basically, these seed keywords are what Longtail Pro will use to find every related keyword. So you want keywords to describe your article. If you're not really sure of good words, you can add quite a few here. You can add as many as you want. So just try some different things. I've done this a lot, so I know good ones for me will be things to do in Melbourne with kids. Is a great place to start. So click add. I could add more if I wanted to, but I don't really want to. I just let all this stuff get calculated, but you can filter by things if you want. I prefer to just put it all out there and then filter it later. Only thing you might want to do is this global search volume. So this will automatically show the search volume in Australia. If you also want to see what it is around the world in total, which I quite often do, you can click the global search button. And then you just simply press generate keywords. And then what you will see is what I prepared earlier, and it's this big long list. So there's 710, obviously that's too many. And what you can do now is try and work out the main keyword. Now, as you can see, there's ones like things to do in Melbourne with kids and there's things to do in Melbourne. Like, I'm not going to rank for things to do in Melbourne. It's going to be competitive, and, you know, what I really want to rank for is ones about kids because that's far more relevant to my site. So what I could do here to try and track down what will be the best main keyword for my site, so I don't have to look at 710, is to filter out these. So pick ones that only have kids in them. Okay, so this is a much more manageable list, and this is going to be my main keyword. I really want the local searches to be at least 150, so I'm only going to see ones with 150. Now that number might seem quite low. I know that when I started doing this, I would look for ones that were like a few hundred or whatever. But I've actually found that I have articles that the main keyword apparently only has 90 global searches, but yet I get 2,000 hits from Google to that article. Now, part of that is because I use a lot of keywords, but even if I added all those keywords together and what I can find in Keyword Planner and Longtail Pro, they don't equal 2,000. But that's because Google doesn't actually show us everything. A lot of these numbers I think are a lot higher than what they show us, and there's also a lot more keywords that there is just no way to see. So don't necessarily be scared going for those lower searches, as long as you're sure there's likely to be lots of words around that. Now, given there are so many around kids, family, whatever for Melbourne, I feel quite safe with going for a lower volume keyword because there will still be lots more that I will just rank for naturally. Okay, so we're going to look for these. So I would start by looking at the ones with the higher local searches because they're the most ideal. Obviously, I would rather rank number one for this one than any other. So we'll have a look at how competitive that is. So if I just click on it, it will bring back the 10 results in Melbourne. So you can have a look. Now, the main things I look for is this title and URL. I want to see if there's an exact match with the keyword. So things to do in Melbourne with kids. An exact match is going to be harder to beat. Whereas, as you can see here, because it bolds it, none of them, except for perhaps this one, are an exact match. Okay, so it's going to make it easier for me. If you want to see any of these, by the way, you can just click on the link and it will open it for you. So yeah, that's a really good sign that this keyword may not be as bad as what it might look when you look at one of the other indicators, which is domain authority. So this is why you need to know your domain authority, because what you want to see is how many are less than you. So mine is 39 at the moment, so I've got 1, 2, 3 less than me, so that's a good sign. But what you also need to look at is this juice page links. Okay, now juice links is how many links there are to that page from external sites. So unlike this page link, like you can see this one's got 2,773. That number also includes links from within that person's own site. Now, since juice links are 0, we can assume that they're all internal links. So that's nowhere near as powerful as a juice link from an external site. So the ones that would be worrying here are like this one. It might only have a domain authority of 28, but it has 452 juice links. The other thing to look at is that because it's got Little Melbourne in the URL, right, it's obviously, and I know this site, it is a site just about basically for families in Melbourne. So because the whole site's on that, Google's likely to give it an advantage over me. I get an advantage in Australia because it understands I'm Australian and that I might cater better to Australians, but I'm going to struggle to beat a site that's especially about little kids in Melbourne just because of that. But yeah, you throw in the juice links as well, you know, and realistically I'm not going to have 452 links to this article. And you should be aiming for keywords where you don't need any juice links. So if this keyword, since I beat 3 and none of these are exact match in the title, if there wasn't juice page links in these 3 that I beat, then I would feel like this was a good keyword. Maybe I could even get up here, except for this one's also about Melbourne in the URL. So all of that makes it a bit tougher. Do I think it's impossible to rank for that keyword? No, I need to think about it, but I think I might still go that keyword because from experience, and this is where you'll get better over time, I know that I rank like quite easily for these types of keywords. And given none of these exact match the title, I think it's quite possible I could. But if you're newer and starting out, I would personally be reluctant to go for this keyword. If it wasn't Melbourne, Australia, and it was like Melbourne, Florida, then I would not go for this keyword because those ones that are less than me, like this one that's the domain authority is less, it's got all those juice page links, the sites on it. This other one that's less has juice page links, the sites on Melbourne for kids. So the only one I would feel confident about beating is 1, and that's not really enough. So let's go look at the other keywords. Things to do in Melbourne for kids. So it'll be quite similar, probably. But what you want to see is if this is the same as that one above, then you can think that Google is seeing them as the same keywords, so there's less differences between them. But you can see the rankings, although it looks like there's pretty much the same sites there, the rankings have shifted a bit, so it is seeing it a bit differently. But let's see, I think it's the same sites that I have a higher domain authority than, yep, so the ones with the juice page links again. They don't match exactly here, but they didn't for the other one either. So if I was going to choose between those two, I would go this one because it seems pretty equal how I might go, and this one has more local searches. So you always want more local searches when you can, but you also need to take into account if you can rank, you want to rank top page. So it's better to go a lower local search and get on the top page. Likewise, better to go a lower local search and get in the top 3 because you'll get far more hits from being like, especially if you're number 1 for a lower local search number than to be number 10 on one with a higher number. Okay, so let's shut this one. Melbourne for kids, let's have a look at that. That's got a decent number. Okay, so again, we look at these titles. There's only one that matches, so that's really good news. But what isn't so good is if you look at these URLs, see how that's Melbourne, Visit Victoria, that's the state Melbourne is in, that's got Melbourne, that's got Melbourne. I honestly would stay away from this one because there's so many Melbournes in there. Okay, so it seems to be ranking like Melbourne-specific sites, and KidSpot is a very popular Australian kids website. Again, this one I probably feel like I can beat, but that's probably all. So I would not use that one. Let's see Melbourne with kids. So it's very similar again. It looks like I have the same websites to beat. So the 34, the 28, 32, yeah, so it's still only that one. So all of these are seeming really as competitive as each other. So if I had to use one of these keywords, I would go with this top one just because it's got more searches and because I follow that format a lot and I rank. So even when it looks competitive, so I think that I will rank top 10 for that, which is a big call maybe. What to do in Melbourne with kids. That can be a good one to look at too. Again, you're not matching here, so that could be good. This one I feel most confident beating because it doesn't have juice page links and the domain authority is less. That would be pretty good because that's only number 5. So I think that one's probably actually the easiest. But this is where experience comes in. If you're new to this, I would pick this one. Because I know I just rank for this keyword pretty well, I would actually still stick with that. But we can look at other ones too. I know families often in, sometimes can be a lot of searches with family. So say family things to do in Melbourne. See that top 10. That's quite similar again. This site I feel most confident about. It's number 4, so that's quite high. So that's another one you could consider. But again, for me personally, I'd go with the one that I know, I guess you could say. So that's the type of process you're going to follow through. Now, sometimes it can be scary because you can't see anything you'll be, especially when you're starting out, you don't have a high domain authority. That's why it's important to first of all really focus on getting your domain authority up, and you can read my other article on that. But in saying that too, if you use good keywords from the beginning, you'll be so happy later on because when your domain authority goes up and you start ranking better, your page views will just shoot up because you'll suddenly rank for lots of things at once. Now the other step of what we're going to do, okay, we found our main keyword, is that we just want lots of relevant keywords. So what I would do for this step is I've got lots of keywords here. I'd click on this export. Basically, it'll export it for me. And then you can go look at that spreadsheet. It'll have your keywords. It'll have your number of searches. So it'll just basically have exactly whatever you have on the page here. If you had global searches, you can put that on there too. And then I'll go through the spreadsheet and I'll remove the ones that make no sense. I mean, you can remove it in here too. I just find it quicker to do it in a spreadsheet. So say kids activities Melbourne. Okay, that doesn't make sense. You need kids activities in Melbourne or something. I probably wouldn't remove that. I would just put it in it when I did it. Melbourne things to do doesn't quite make sense, so we'll delete that. Melbourne sightseeing, it's just a bit broad. Unlikely to ever get anywhere with that. Melbourne tourism, Melbourne tours, things to do Melbourne. Since things to do in Melbourne is already there, I would delete that. So basically just go through it and remove everything that's just not right, doesn't grammatically make sense or isn't about your article. So it takes a little bit of time. But once you've done that, then you've got your spreadsheet to go of all the keywords you'd like to add to your article. Anyway, I hope that wasn't too fast and made sense for you. Of course, as always, you can add questions down the bottom in the comments. Good luck.